The air was cold that morning. Not just cold, but bitter in a way that stung your skin and reminded you that winter didn't care if you were broke. Mia pulled her hoodie tighter around her thin shoulders while looking at her sister Layla, who was adjusting the busted speaker they had dragged out of a thrift store dumpster last week. "I think it still works," Layla said, tapping the top of it like it was a sacred relic. "Yeah, well, so does our hope," Mia muttered, half laughing, half despising the truth in her words. The two sisters had been living in a tiny shelter, room barely big enough to lie down in. They ate noodles 5 nights a week, sometimes skipping meals entirely. Singing on the streets wasn't a dream, it was survival. That was the messed up part. They both had voices that could cut through, silence like a blade through paper. But no record label, no school, no social worker gave a damn. They were nobodies from nowhere. Layla plugged the old mic into the speaker and tested it. The sound crackled like it was choking on dust, but it worked. Sort of. "All right," she said. "Let's sing something happy. People throw more money when they feel good." Mia nodded, then took her place. Her shoes had holes in them, her fingertips were frozen, but her voice, that voice could wake the dead. As they started singing, something old and sweet, something about hope and better days, people began to slow down. A man with a coffee stopped. A woman taking a selfie paused. A teenager pulled out her phone and started recording, but none of them knew. None of them saw the man standing just across the street. He wasn't dressed like a billionaire. No expensive watch flashing in the light. No tailored suit or arrogant air. Just jeans, a coat, and a face that held too many thoughts. His name was Daniel Wolfe. You'd never know from looking at him, but his name owned half the city. Tech, finance, media. He didn't build empires, he bought them. People feared him, others worshipped him. But that morning he wasn't looking for a deal or a meeting. He was trying to feel something. After his divorce, after the scandal, that nearly cost him everything. After his father died calling him a soulless machine, Daniel found himself wandering more than working. And on that day, those two girls, their voices hit him in the chest like he'd been punched. He didn't cross the street. Not yet. He just stood there, listening, watching. Mia and Layla had no clue. They just kept singing, unaware that someone was seeing them, really seeing them, for the first time in a long time. When the song ended, a few coins clattered into their case. A few more people walked off, heads down, earbuds in. The usual. $42, Layla Chiu whispered after counting. Better than yesterday. Mia nodded, though the corners of her eyes stung. Still not enough for rent. Daniel turned and started walking, fast, like he had somewhere urgent to be. But his mind wasn't on meetings. It was still stuck on those voices, the pain in them, the purity. He didn't know why, but something in him whispered, "Don't let them disappear." That night the girls returned to the shelter with aching feet and a few bags of cheap groceries. Layla had used 10 of the $42 to buy canned soup, some bread and toothpaste. Mia tried not to cry as she saw the small box of tea Layla had slipped into the cart. "You didn't have to get this," she said, holding the box like it was made of gold. "I wanted us to feel human," Layla said with a shrug, her eyes already scanning the dim shelter walls. "1 cup won't kill the budget." The shelter was loud, like always. A man was snoring in the hallway. A baby cried in a room nearby. The radiator ticked like it had PTSD, but it was warmer than the street, and they were used to pretending they didn't notice the screaming or the smells or the quiet threat that always lingered here. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his penthouse, staring out over the city. His assistant had called him 3 times. He didn't answer. His tablet blinked with pending meetings, stock alerts, press releases. He poured himself a glass of whiskey and stared at nothing. It wasn't just their voices, it was their faces, their eyes. He hadn't felt that kind of raw honesty in years. Not in boardrooms, not in overpriced restaurants, not in the people who called themselves his friends. He Googled girls singing on 42nd and Fairfax. Nothing. Checked social media, searched hashtags. Nothing again. It pissed him off in a way he didn't understand. He was used to controlling things, fixing things, buying solutions. But how? Do you help someone when you don't even know their name? Back at the shelter, Mia lay awake, staring at the ceiling. "Do you think anything will ever change?" she whispered. Layla, who shared the tiny mattress with her, hesitated. "What kind of change? I mean, like, not just surviving, actually living, singing on a stage, owning shoes that don't have holes, that kind of stuff." Layla didn't answer right away. "Maybe," she said finally. "But not if we quit." They both fell asleep hungry. Again. The next morning, Daniel did something he hadn't done in years. He took the subway. No driver, no bodyguard. Just him, a hoodie, and a burning feeling in his gut he couldn't explain. He stood at the same corner, same time. The streets were busier. People pushing past each other, avoiding eye contact. But the girls weren't there. His jaw tightened. For the next 3 days he came back. Morning, noon, evening, no sign of them. Meanwhile, Mia had a fever, bad one. She was pale and shaky and burning up, but Layla couldn't afford to buy meds. She sang solo on the street, just to get money for Tylenol. And the people? They didn't care. A few bucks, a crumpled dollar. That's all her pain was worth to them. Back in the penthouse, Daniel couldn't stop hearing their song in his head, so he sent a text to someone. A fixer, the kind of man who could find anything or anyone. 2 girls, singing, homeless or close to it, around 42nd and Fairfax. I want their names. The fixer replied with a thumbs-up emoji. A week passed. Then came a name. Mia and Layla Torres. Daniel's lips curved into something close to a smile. Not because he found them, but because now he had something money couldn't buy. Purpose. But he didn't know yet that helping them would come at a cost, because not everyone in his world wanted the poor to rise. Not when they could be used. Not when their voices could be bought. And broken. Daniel stared at the name his fixer had sent him like it was some ancient code. Mia and Layla Torres. 2 names. 2 reasons to feel again. And for a man who'd spent a lifetime turning feelings off like light switches, that was terrifying. He leaned back in his chair, sipping bitter coffee that had long gone cold, and said the names out loud like a prayer. His next step was reckless, dangerous even. But Billionaires didn't play by the rules. He called another number, a private investigator this time, someone who specialized in backgrounds, movements, and the kind of deep-dive data that could track a ghost. "I want to know everything," Daniel said coldly. "Where they stay, who they talk to, where they go. I don't want them scared. I just want the truth." He hung up before the man could ask why, because honestly, Daniel didn't know why either. All he knew was that their voices pulled something out of him that hadn't been touched since childhood. Something pure, something painful. Across town, Layla was standing in the free clinic line with Mia leaning against her. Her sisters. Fever hadn't broken in 2 days. The Tylenol barely did anything, and the nurse inside had told them they'd need to come back after 6 hours. "We don't have 6 hours," Layla said, but the nurse just shrugged. "Neither do we." Mia whispered something Layla couldn't hear. Her lips were dry, her hands were ice. People stepped around them like they were nothing, like they were street trash. Layla's stomach burned, but she kept her head down. Later that night, a miracle happened. Or at least, that's how it felt. A woman walked into the shelter, dressed sharp, heels clicking, holding a clipboard. "Excuse me," she said, looking at the row of worn-out women trying to ignore her. "I'm looking for Mia and Layla Torres." The name made people look up. Layla stood slowly. "That's us." The woman smiled almost too brightly. "I represent someone interested in helping you. He heard you sing." Layla blinked. "What?" "Let's just say he's got the power to change everything. We'd like to take you both somewhere safe, somewhere comfortable." Mia coughed behind her. Layla turned to her sister. She looked weak, pale, but her eyes were wide. "You serious?" Layla asked the woman. "This isn't some scam, right?" "No scam. A private apartment's already waiting for you. Medical help, clean clothes, all expenses covered." Layla didn't trust it. Not yet. But Mia gripped her sleeve. "Please," she whispered. That's what made the choice for her. Within an hour, they were in a black car. For the first time in weeks, they were warm, clean water, real heat. The apartment they were taken to looked like it belonged in a movie. It had food in the fridge, a bed with actual sheets. And the best part, a private nurse who took one look at Mia and started treating her immediately. Layla stood in the corner like a stray animal, too scared to relax. "Who are you people?" she asked the woman again. The lady smiled. "Let's just say you sang to the right ears." Back at his office, Daniel watched a video feed from his phone, discreetly installed in the apartment to make sure his help was actually helping. He didn't like doing things halfway. He watched Layla pacing, watched Mia finally resting. And he allowed himself to feel proud for the first time in years. But then came the phone call. It was his CFO, panicked. "You're trending," he said. "Some girl posted a TikTok of you watching those singers last week. People think you're stalking the homeless now. #billionaire creep. It's getting ugly." Daniel didn't blink. "Let it burn," he said. Because this wasn't about optics. This wasn't about branding. This was personal. But what he didn't know, someone else was watching too. And they had different plans for the Torres sisters. By the next morning, the sisters were wrapped in blankets that actually felt like they were meant for warmth, not just survival. Mia's color had returned, and Layla could finally exhale, just a little. The nurse had left early, promising to return that afternoon with more antibiotics. The fridge was full. There was fresh fruit, real butter, meat, and juice that didn't taste like rust. For a moment, Layla felt like maybe, just maybe, life had shifted. Then came the knock. She froze. Mia looked at her from the couch. "You expecting anyone?" Layla shook her head slowly, walking toward the door with the caution of someone who'd been kicked down too many times. She opened it just a crack. The man standing there was smiling too much. The smile didn't touch his eyes. He wore a cheap suit and held a small card with some kind of logo. "Morning," he said. "I represent Nova Sound Media. We're scouting for talent and your names came up." Layla narrowed her eyes. "How?" He chuckled. "Come on. Don't be shy. The city's buzzing about you. Girls with golden voices, rescued from the gutter by a mystery billionaire. It's like a fairy tale." She almost slammed the door. "Look, I know someone's helping you already," the man continued. "But trust me, those types don't stick around. They save you, get bored, then move on. We're offering you a contract, a future, fame. You want to be somebody, right?" "Who told you where we were?" Layla asked sharply. "Don't worry about that," he said, stepping closer. "Just know your window won't stay open long." Layla shut the door in his face. Her heart was pounding. She turned to Mia, who looked nervous again. "You think this has something to do with that guy who helped us?" Mia asked. "I think we just stepped into a game," Layla replied. "And we don't know the rules yet." Meanwhile, in a downtown office high above the city, Daniel sat in front of a screen showing the same man who had just knocked on the girl's door. The camera feed was from a hallway security cam he'd had installed discreetly. He recognized the man immediately. Rick Brenner. A vulture, a fake music agent working for Apex Entertainment, a rival company that had once tried to buy out one of Daniel's startups. They used cheap tactics, fake promises, and contracts with chains hidden between the lines. Daniel's jaw tightened. He made another call. "Get security on the girls, discreet. I want anyone who breathes near them identified." Within seconds. But he knew it wouldn't stop there. Apex had money, influence. They would find new ways in. Back in the apartment, Mia was feeling better, enough to sit up and hum again. Layla watched her, torn between relief and dread. "This doesn't feel like a blessing anymore," Layla muttered. "It feels like a setup." That afternoon, the nurse didn't come. Instead, a delivery arrived. A beautiful package of high-end makeup, dresses, and a new phone, with a note that simply read, "You deserve more than the street. Let us help." Nova Sound Media. Layla threw the box across the room, but Mia stared at it like it was a window into another world. "Maybe we should just listen," she said softly. "Just hear them out," Layla's voice cracked, "and sign our souls away." "We don't have anything else," Mia whispered. Daniel watched it all unfold. The apartment's audio had been muted, privacy mattered, but he could see the storm brewing, the manipulation, the emotional pull. He didn't blame Mia. He blamed himself, because helping someone didn't mean just giving them comfort. It meant protecting them from the wolves waiting just beyond the warmth. And the wolves were circling now, with cameras, with lawyers, with lies dressed as opportunity. The next morning came quiet, but not peaceful. Layla barely slept, her eyes flickering open every hour as if waiting for something to go wrong. When she finally stood, the apartment felt colder even though the heat was still on. Mia was sitting by the window, staring out like the city might speak back. "They left another envelope," she said, without turning around. Layla's stomach dropped. She walked over slowly and picked it up off the floor. Thick paper, heavy ink. It reeked of false promises. Inside was a contract, 10 pages long, all in sharp corporate print. There was no greeting this time. Just figures, $500,000 advance, 20% royalties, full recording deal. And at the bottom, "All we need is your signature." Layla scoffed. "They're getting desperate." Mia didn't move. "Or they just believe in us more than anyone ever has." "That's not belief, Mia. That's bait." Layla ripped the papers in half. Mia stood up then, suddenly angry. "Why do you always get to decide what's best? What if this is it? What if this is the one shot we'll ever have?" Layla stared at her. "Because I've seen what happens. When people like them promise the moon, they give you a taste, then own you." The room felt smaller than ever. Daniel, watching from his office, saw the tension rising. He leaned back, frustrated with himself for letting it go this far without interference. He picked up his phone. "I need to speak to them," he told his assistant. "Now, no more middlemen." An hour later, Layla's phone buzzed, the one from the gift box. She had ignored it until now, assuming it was another trick. But this time the screen flashed a name she didn't know. Daniel Wolfe. "Who is this?" she asked flatly. There was a pause. "I'm the one who's been helping you," Daniel said, his voice calm but heavy. "I should have introduced myself sooner." Layla's throat tightened. "Why?" "Because I've made a lot of mistakes," he said honestly, "and trying to help from the shadows was one of them." She didn't respond. "I know Apex is circling," he continued. "I know the kind of contract they've offered. I also know they'll take everything from you the moment you sign." "You watching us?" Layla asked quietly. "Yes," he said. "Not in a creepy way. Security, cameras. I installed them for safety. I wanted to make sure no one hurt you." Mia came over and sat beside her, listening. Layla put the call on speaker. "What do you want from us?" Mia asked. "No one helps for free." Daniel sighed. "I want nothing. Not your voices, not your image. I lost something, and when I heard you sing, I felt like I found a part of it again." Layla wasn't buying it. "You're a billionaire. You don't just feel things, you collect things." Daniel's voice softened. "You're not wrong. I've spent most of my life collecting, controlling, owning. But you can't own what's real, and that's what you are." There was silence. Then Mia spoke, quieter now. "What happens if we say no to them?" "You become targets," Daniel said. "They'll dig into your past, paint you as unstable, try to shame you into crawling back. And if we say yes, they'll smile while they cage you." Layla's voice was ice. "So what do you suggest? That we become your charity case instead?" "No," Daniel said. "I suggest we work together." He took a breath, the next words heavier than he expected. "I want to help you start your own label, your own terms. No contracts unless you write them. I'll fund it, quietly. You keep control, but it's your choice." Layla stared at the phone like it was about to explode. Mia whispered, "Is that even real?" Layla didn't answer, because something in her gut still screamed, nothing this good ever comes without a cost. And she wasn't wrong. Because far away in a dark office full of glowing screens, someone else was watching, recording, preparing, and they had no intention of letting the Torres sisters walk away clean. The next 2 days felt like borrowed time. Daniel kept his word. A small team of lawyers and media consultants began quietly laying the foundation for what he called Project Resonance, an independent label entirely under Layla and Mia's control. No middlemen, no predators, No industry chains dressed as favors, but Layla didn't trust it. Not completely. Every time a lawyer smiled, or a contract used words like empowerment, she wanted to tear it all apart. She had grown up watching her mother get chewed and spat out by systems that claimed to help, but only controlled. Daniel said he was different, but billionaires knew how to lie better than most. Still, Mia was glowing. She sang more, laughed more, started writing lyrics late into the night, scraps of poetry about hunger and heat, loneliness and hope. Her voice felt bigger than it ever had, brighter. "I think he really means it," she told Layla as they stood on the rooftop terrace of the new apartment Daniel had secured for them. "He's not perfect, but I don't think he's trying to use us." Layla squinted at the skyline, the wind whipping her curls around. "Even if he is," she muttered, "we'll burn him before he burns us." But while the sisters were trying to build something real, Apex was plotting in shadows. Rick Brenner, the greasy fake agent who had knocked on their door, sat across from a man far more dangerous, Marshall Crane, Apex's real muscle. Not a man who spoke much, but one who made things disappear when needed. "They've got Wolf backing them," Rick said nervously. "The label's real, they're moving fast." Crane didn't blink. "Then we move faster." He tossed a file across the table. "Here," he said. "They're past. All of it. The homeless shelter files, school records, police reports, their mum's arrest in 2011. Hell, even the incident with Layla stealing cold medicine back in the day. Spin it right and they'll look like dangerous liars. Grifters. Perfect sob story turned scam." Rick grinned. "Media blitz?" Crane nodded. "With a side of legal pressure. Let's scare Wolf off with dirt. Make the girls radioactive." By the time the sun rose the next morning, headlines were everywhere. From street singers to scandal, the Torres sisters troubled past. Mia Torres juvenile clinic records leak. Is she mentally fit? Daniel Wolf funds former thief and runaway. PR disaster or midlife breakdown. Mia cried when she saw the news. Layla didn't cry. She punched a hole in the wall. Daniel called them within minutes. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I didn't think they'd go this low." "You think this is new to us," Layla snapped. "They're just louder now." "I'll bury the stories," he promised. "I have lawyers already working on takedowns." "We don't need takedowns," she cut in. "We need a voice, our voice." Mia was trembling, her chest heaving. "They said I was unstable, Layla. Like I'm broken." Layla turned to her sister and held her close. "They're scared of you," she whispered. "That means you're powerful." That afternoon, instead of hiding, the sisters made a choice. They went live on social media, raw, no makeup, no script. Layla spoke first. "We're not perfect. We never pretended to be. We've been homeless. We've stolen to survive. We've slept in hallways. We've begged on corners." Mia's voice cracked. "But we never stopped singing, and if that makes us dangerous, then damn right, we are." Within hours, the video went viral. "Their Voice Not Yours" started trending. Celebrities reshared it. Activists spoke out. Former shelter workers came forward defending the girls. Daniel watched it all happen, pride and awe creeping in like a slow sunrise. But Marshall Crane? He didn't blink. He picked up his phone. "Plan B," he said. Because if destroying their image didn't work, he'd come after the girls for real. The threat came quietly. That's what made it dangerous. It started with the power flickering in the apartment. Then came the phone glitches. Their calls dropped. Texts arrived late or never. One night the elevator stopped between floors and trapped Mia for 30 terrifying minutes in the dark. At first Layla thought it was just bad luck, old building stuff. Then she noticed the same black SUV parked outside every day. Different license plates, but always the same model. Always tinted windows, always idling too long. She told Daniel. He didn't hesitate. "Get your bags, now." Within hours they were relocated again, this time to a private estate an hour outside the city. Gated, guarded, secure. A place Daniel rarely used anymore, tucked behind trees and hills, the kind of place billionaires buy to hide from the world when they can't stand it anymore. "This is temporary," he said as he greeted them at the gate himself, "but it's safe." Mia looked scared, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do they want from us?" Daniel sighed. "To shut you up, to humiliate me, or worse, to own you again." Layla didn't sit. She stood with her arms crossed. "Why do they hate you so much?" "Because I used to be one of them," Daniel said flatly. "And I stopped playing their game." He explained what Apex really was, a media syndicate with 100 tentacles, each dipped in politics, crime, and money. They didn't just make pop stars, they owned them. Shaped their public lives and erased the private ones. And Layla and Mia refusing to bend. That was war. 2 days passed in tense silence. Daniel's security tightened. His legal team worked non-stop. But still, Layla couldn't shake the feeling that something was crawling just beneath the surface. And she was right. It came late at night. A blackout hit the estate. All backup systems went down. No internet, no cameras, no phones, just a deep, unnatural silence. Layla's eyes snapped open first. Then Mia's. "I don't like this," Mia whispered. "Stay close," Layla said, grabbing a metal rod from beside the fireplace. They crept down the hallway, every step slow and calculated. The air felt too still, like the house was holding its breath. Then a window shattered downstairs. Layla pulled Mia into the closet. Footsteps, heavy, slow, deliberate. Layla held her breath as a shadow moved past the door, then another. Outside the estate, Daniel had just pulled into the driveway. After a late meeting with his crisis PR team, when he noticed the gate open slightly. No one should have opened it. He drew his concealed weapon and sprinted toward the house. Inside, the front door creaked open. A flashlight beam danced across the walls. "Find them," a voice whispered. Layla squeezed Mia's hand tighter. Her heart was thudding so loud, she thought it might give them away. Then gunfire, one shot, a scream. Daniel had entered through the kitchen. Catching one of the intruders by surprise, he didn't hesitate. Pulled the trigger and dropped the man in one blow. Another tried to run. Daniel tackled him, punching with the kind of rage that comes from watching good people get hunted for sport. Layla and Mia stayed frozen until Daniel kicked open the closet door and pulled them out. "Are you okay?" he panted. Mia sobbed and nodded. Layla stared at the man bleeding on the floor behind him. Who were they? "Not thieves," Daniel said. "This was a message." Later, the police were called, quietly. The intruders were taken away with no press, no sirens. The men refused to talk, but Layla had seen the mark on one of their necks, a tattoo shaped like a black triangle. She knew that symbol. So did Daniel. It belonged to an Apex-affiliated security firm, one that operated off the books. The war wasn't just public anymore, it was personal. They weren't trying to destroy the sisters' image now. They were trying to scare them into silence, but they failed. Because the next morning, Mia posted a new video, bruised, shaken, furious. "They came into our home. They tried to shut us up, but guess what?" She leaned into the camera, voice fierce. "We're still singing." The video exploded. Within minutes, it caught fire across social media. Millions watched Mia's tear-streaked, defiant face as she spoke into the lens like it was her final breath, and her first weapon all at once. She didn't just tell people what happened, she showed them the scars, the fear, and the fire still burning behind her eyes. "This isn't about money," she said. "This isn't about fame, this is about power. About people like us being told we don't deserve to exist unless we bow, beg, and sell our souls." Layla joined her, standing, tall, one arm around her sister. "Well, we're done begging." They ended the video not with words but with a song. No music, no backup vocals. Just two poor girls singing into a phone camera, their voices rising like a battle cry wrapped in melody. And the world heard them. "Stand with the Sisters" began trending within hours. Artists, real ones, came forward in solidarity. An indie label offered to partner under their terms. One senator even issued a statement condemning Apex's intimidation, but Apex didn't back off. They filed a lawsuit, claiming breach of industry ethics, defamation, and even intentional interference with corporate opportunity. Daniel handled it all, ruthlessly. He brought in the best legal team money could buy and gave them one order: destroy them, not just in court, in public. And destroy them they did. By the end of the week, Apex's ties to underground blackmail networks were leaked. Internal documents exposed how they'd buried sexual abuse cases involving artists they controlled. Whistleblowers emerged, and so did a hidden trail of bribery and exploitation. Crane vanished. Rick Brenner fled the country, and Apex's CEO was forced to resign in disgrace. Daniel didn't gloat. He didn't speak at press conferences or post online. He just showed up quietly to the girls' final rooftop performance. This time, a private industry showcase streamed live around the world. The rooftop wasn't glitzy. It was raw, gritty, just like the journey. Layla wore her worn-out sneakers with pride. Mia wore the hoodie she'd once slept in, but their microphones were gold. And their voices? Their voices weren't just beautiful, they were undeniable. After the final note faded, the world stood still. Then came the flood: applause, praise, record-breaking views. But Mia's smile wasn't for the numbers. It was for Layla, and Layla's was for her. Daniel met them backstage. He didn't say much, just handed Layla an envelope. No contracts, no strings. Inside was the deed to their own studio space, paid in full, owned by the sisters. Her space to build, record, dream, and to never be owned again. "We didn't need saving," Layla told him softly. "I know," he replied. "You just needed someone to stop the bleeding long enough to heal." She smiled then. A real one. Weeks later, when the cameras stopped flashing and the noise faded a bit, the sisters went back to a street corner. Same spot, same old speaker, not because they had to, but because they chose to. And this time, as they sang, people didn't toss coins. They just stopped and listened. Because two poor girls had become something more than famous. They had become free.